Authorities in Louisiana are waiting for more information after Governor Jeff Landry said he wanted a National Guard deployment.
The first that New Orleans Chief Deputy Police Superintendent Hans Gonthier heard about the possible National Guard deployment was on TV.
Do I have official notice? No, I don't have a letter, email, phone call. I don't have anything.
Commanders of the Louisiana National Guard say they will coordinate with local law enforcement before they arrive.
ABC's Jim Ryan. In Munich, Germany, a bomb threat forced the closure of the Oktoberfest fairgrounds. Police say the threat is likely tied to the same suspect behind an explosion at a residential building earlier in the day that killed one person. Walmart says it will remove synthetic dyes and over 30 preservatives or artificial sweeteners from its brands like Great Value, Market Side, Freshness Guaranteed, and Better Goods. The nation's largest retailer says it moves a step forward in its ongoing mission to provide customers with affordable, high-quality, private brand products. Mars Wrigley, Tyson Foods, and Kellogg have done the same. Roger Federer leads the list of nominees for the International Tennis Hall of Fame's class of 2026. Federer was the first man to win 20 Grand Slam singles titles and ushered in an unprecedented era that included rivals like Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Other players nominated include Svetlana Kuznetsova and Juan Martin de Potro. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
It's now 5:05 on this sunny Wednesday afternoon, and I'm Will Feelwright with your local headlines. Well, the prosecution is beginning to form its strategy in the death penalty case against Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating conservative commentator Charlie Kirk at UVU last month. With thousands of potential witnesses and numerous videos from the public shooting, the evidence pool is vast. Now, former prosecutor Nathan Evershed, who is not involved in the case, has suggested that prosecutors will likely focus heavily on the aggravating factor that makes it eligible for capital punishment, which was putting others at grave risk. Now, witnesses like Beck Dishman, who is a Turning Point USA chapter vice president who attended the event, described a stunned crowd that first mistook the gunshot for a firework. Now, Evershed also noted that Robinson's parents, who helped facilitate his surrender, could likely be called as key witnesses by the prosecution. Now, if convicted, the defense will likely try to present mitigating circumstances to challenge the death sentence. In other news, attorneys for death row inmate Ralph Leroy Menzies have requested a new MRI exam for their client as part of an upcoming evaluation to determine if he is legally competent to be executed. Now, Menzies, who is 62, was scheduled to be executed back on September 5th, but the Utah Supreme Court ruled unanimously on a 5-0 decision that questions about his competency needed a second review. Now, a new competency hearing is scheduled for December. The defense had requested the new MRI, stating that Menzies' health has declined significantly, leaving him nearly unable to walk and with limited use of his right arm. Now, attorneys believe that the exam is necessary to check for possible additional strokes that may have affected his brain and contributed to dementia. Now, prosecutors did not oppose the motion, provided the exam does not interfere with the competency hearing that is coming up in December. Now, Menzies was convicted for the brutal 1986 kidnapping and murder of Maureen Hunsaker. And a missing Blaine County hiker in Idaho, Heather Wayment, was found alive and severely disoriented in the rugged central Idaho wilderness by 3 mountain bikers who were unaware of her being missing. Now, Wayman went missing back on September 17th after she failed to return from a hike near Prairie Creek by Pocatello. Now, her vehicle was found at the trailhead, which prompted an extensive search by multiple law enforcement agencies. Now, the breakthrough came when brothers Tommy and Vinton Gwynn, along with their friend Shelton Robinson, found Wayman about 17 miles from her car in Camas County. Now, she was reportedly wandering in her underwear, dehydrated, and with raw, bleeding feet. Now, after spending about 30 minutes calming the disoriented woman, the bikers were able to use a satellite texting app to relay their GPS coordinates to their contacts, who then alerted search and rescue teams. Rescue crews responded with a helicopter. Wayment was flown out for medical attention, bringing an end to a very anxious search. Well, we're going to continue to see mostly clear skies through the rest of the afternoon as temperatures were in the low 70s today. Tonight will drop into the mid-40s, should stay mostly clear overnight, and then we'll see a few more clouds possible tomorrow. Temperatures going to be around the mid-70s and increasing clouds coming on Friday. And it looks like Friday is when we're going to see the next line of storms, possibly bringing a chance of some rain Friday night and into Saturday. Some cooler temperatures also coming for this next weekend. And weather this hour is brought to you by Roof Rescue. They're dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry. From minor repairs to complete roof replacement, remember Roof Rescue. And I'm Will Theorite. I'll have another check of your local news headlines coming up at the bottom of the hour. KVNU News Time is now 5:08.
It's been a crazy few months with big rainstorms fueling the weeds in your lawn, garden, or empty lot, and the spiders coming inside to beat the heat. You need help. Let Logan Extermination take care of those pesky weeds and unwanted pests with an exterior lawn application and interior treatment for bugs. Call Logan Extermination today before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Weed control starts at $45. Interior spider spray starts at $95.
Where you find out. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Insuring your business can be frustrating. If you are confused about coverages, your rates are increasing, or you can't get a hold of your agent, it's time for a change. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. We do return your calls because we work for you. We believe that protecting your business should be affordable and hassle-free. As an independent agency, we have access to multiple carriers like Auto Owners Insurance and will give you options. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
Everyone has an estate, but do you have an estate plan? This is Jace Allen, Northern Utah's estate planning attorney. At Allen Law Office, wills and trusts are what we do. If you've been putting it off, now is the time to get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones, protect your legacy, protect your assets. Start today at cashlegal.com or just search Allen Law Office. Wills and trusts are what we do. Allen Law Office.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up here in hour 2 of today's show, got a lot to talk about. Punchbowl News reporting, and I'm still not sure how they got this information before anyone here in Utah did, but they are a credible news source. They're reporting that Utah lawmakers next week will choose Map C in the redistricting redo, court-ordered redo that is playing out. You still have time for public comment, by the way. You have until Friday to go to redistricting.utah.gov and comment on all 6 of the map options that are there for new congressional districts here in Utah. Punchbowl News reporting today that map has been chosen, and it's just not official yet. They'll have to have an official vote on it as a full legislative body next week once the committee finishes its work on Friday. So we'll talk about the map, if this is true, what this means for Utah. Well, I'll spoil it right now. It means not 1, but 2 competitive districts for Democrats here in Utah. Could get interesting. Not immediately. It'll take 5 years, but eventually could get interesting. We'll talk about it later on in the show. Jane Goodall passed away today. This was, for many of us, at least in my age group, the first real opportunity to see the line cross between biologist, scientist, and pop culture figure. She became famous, I think, for most people when a fictionalized, but based on true events, story of hers and her time living with gorillas and chimpanzees in Japan and other parts of the world was turned into a movie that was really popular in the late 80s, early 90s when she first really became famous. But since then, she kind of became the face of not unproductive discussions about animals like what PETA does, which I think just makes people mad more than it does good for animals. And not just fundraising and spending money to rescue animals and better their health, like ASPCA or the Humane Society or Cash Humane. Those are all really important things. Well, not what PETA does. I think, again, as an animal lover, I think PETA works against animals in their antics most of the time. Not at first. At first, I think they're doing great stuff, but whoever's been running that, calling the shots of that organization the last 10 years or so is a crackpot. But Jane Goodall kind of went there, but not entirely. In fact, she wasn't a fan of PETA. She felt like I did, that they actually harmed the animal rights efforts. But she was a firm believer that people needed to more often recognize that animals do have minds and feelings. And she would talk about this all the time. She, one time, famously was quoted saying, "Look, I'm a beef eater, but," she says, "I love a good burger." But she said, you have to recognize, if you've ever spent time with a cow, that they have personalities that are different from cow to cow. And that often is an indicator of at least a modicum of intelligence that means they're capable of thinking and feeling things. Now, she said that doesn't mean you need to stop eating burger, but you need to acknowledge that. If you can only eat burger by pretending the cows have no thoughts or feelings, you're just not being realistic about the world around you. It became this huge controversial thing. I think she said this in an interview on Fox News years and years ago, and became this huge, huge scandal. She laughed it off, but it was kind of an interesting thing to see. She passed away, her family announced, while on tour. She actually had a speaking event planned this evening, but she passed away at the age of 91. And I wanted to just kind of recognize her a little bit because, again, for me, this was the first time that there was a scientist who sort of also became a famous pop culture icon. And she's part of the reason I got interested in the science, at least as an amateur audiobook listener. It was, I don't know, kind of watching how much fun she was having, going out and doing really important research on the lives and habitats of gorillas and chimpanzees. But here's a little clip. This is, again, the thing that she was probably most famous, or some might say infamous for, this innocent comment she made once about animals having minds and feelings.
These chimpanzees' names, they're your subjects. They should have numbers. Jane, you cannot talk about animals having personalities, minds, and emotions. Those are unique to us. You can't have empathy with your subjects. To be a good scientist, you've got to be objective. And to be objective, you can't have empathy. Well, I had a great teacher when I was a child, a teacher who had already taught me that what these professors were saying was absolute rubbish. That teacher, many of you have had, was my dog, Rusty. And whether you've had a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, a rabbit, a parrot, whatever it is, you know perfectly well that we are not the only beings on the planet with personalities, minds, and emotions. And gradually, science came to accept that we are part of and not separate from the rest of the animal kingdom.
Again, that was a comment she made during a graduation ceremony at her alma mater, and it was controversial. People were very, very upset about this. And then she was on, I think it was Fox News, in an interview talking about this and the controversy around her remarks. And she said, look, I'm a beef eater, but if you've ever met more than one cow, you know they have personalities, which necessitates a fact that they have minds and are capable of feelings. You can't have one without the other. I don't know why people are upset about this, and I will continue to eat burgers. It was the funniest thing. She was a really fun person to hear speak, and again, was kind of someone who got me interested in the biological and physical sciences, at least as a hobby audiobook reader. She's passed away at age 91. That news out this morning from her family. Again, she was on a speaking tour. She actually had an event scheduled tonight to speak somewhere in Southern California, I think, where her tour was currently at. And I'm not sure what happens with the rest of that now. But if you want to learn more about what she wrote and what she said, it's a quick search away. Jane Goodall was famous for a lot of different reasons, deservedly so, and just a fun person to listen to. So if you get a chance to catch up on some of her talks and videos, again, most of them can be found anywhere online, I'd recommend it. Dead at 91, famous gorilla and chimpanzee biologist and researcher Jane Goodall. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People. Coming up, Governor Cox's comments at the TPUSA event at USU last night that began with some booing that was quickly shut down by the moderator from Turning Point, who basically said to what it was kind of an organized group of former gubernatorial candidate Phil Lyman's crowd. They're very active online still, and they're very convinced that the election was stolen from Phil Lyman, without evidence, of course. And they organized to show up together, and the plan was, I think, to be disruptive, to boo Governor Cox, to ask him why, you stole the election. Well, they were shut down by Turning Points. But the way it all played out, actually giving the governor to say what he wanted to say, was the Turning Point's moderator at one point saying, hey, to the booers, this isn't how we do things at Turning Points, kind of embarrassing them in front of the entire spectrum. It was an important moment in, I think, this overall discussion on how we go forward from all of this productively. We've got the audio right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning will give away 5 free HVAC units to local families in need for 2025. But here's the truth. This year, there were over 60 nominations, so many more families need real help. That's where you can help. Join us at the Feel the Love fundraising dinner, October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a night of dueling pianos, a silent auction, raffle prizes, and a delicious dinner, knowing that 100% of all funds raised go directly to helping more families receive free HVAC units in 2026. Tickets are just $60 per person or $400 for a table of 8. Get yours now at mountainvalleyhvac.com. Mountain Valley Heating and Air invites you to feel the love at a fundraising dinner October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. A huge thanks to the Riverwoods Conference Center for helping to make this event possible. Let's bring a warm home to more families in need.
Thursday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. We will break down the absolute latest on the government shutdown. How long is it going to go? Will it have any impact on you? We will discuss all of that, plus the latest on whether Middle East peace might be coming to Gaza, plus the Thursday picks where I try to make you guys a bunch of money on the NFL. Don't miss it, Thursday edition, Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Last night, Governor Cox was one of a group of panelists alongside Senator Mike Lee, who actually contributed just via a short video, a little different than we expected. The billing, the way this was promoted, made it look like he was going to actually be there on the panel, but he just submitted a quick video message. I don't know if that was maybe a last-minute change or something, but they also had a representative from Arizona, Andy Biggs, and representing Turning Point's Alex Clark kind of serving as moderator of sorts, even though it wasn't a debate. And then, of course, Governor Spencer Cox. And what was interesting about this is that not only does this come as the relaunch of the Charlie Kirk tour after his assassination here in Utah a few weeks ago, something that I think most people did not expect to happen, and it happening at USU here in Utah, I think was nice for people, whether they were fans of Charlie Kirk or Turning Points or not. And Governor Cox, of course, was the face of that investigation and the tragic details that were coming out before the investigation was concluded here in Utah. And he made a good impression. He did Utah proud, I think, on a national stage. And so he was invited to speak last night. But it's worth pointing out that the governor has had kind of a rocky relationship with this wing of the conservative movement. This is a more conservative part of the Republican, machine, the Turning Point crowd. Charlie Kirk himself at one time called Governor Cox a national embarrassment when Cox vetoed a bill that banned, actually I can't remember whether it was a transgender bathroom bill or a transgender sports bill, but he vetoed it, said it was cruel. And the legislature overrode him, which he said he knew they'd do. And Charlie Kirk was very angry that the governor vetoed the bill, called him a national embarrassment. They'd since apparently made friends. So this was the governor going into not necessarily a friendly environment, but going anyway, which I respect. The governor also, in some of the more right-leaning pockets of Utah, where the Utah GOP delegates definitely sit, not popular for kind of dissing the delegates earlier in 2024 when he said, maybe you don't like me because I don't hate enough. Delegates were angry, but I got his point. Of course, he got a primary challenger, Phil Lyman, who lost the primary, then mounted a write-in campaign, which he went on to lose. And now he's doing the Mike Lindell, my pillow guy thing. The election was stolen from me. And he's reduced to a Twitter influencer. But yesterday there was a lot of chatter on Twitter about them organizing to come up here and kind of disrupt the event by booing and shouting at Governor Cox, accusing him of stealing the election from Phil Lyman. Where things got really interesting on this front is they did that. I don't know how many of them there were. From the number of boos, it sounds like at most 10. But they did boo him as the moderator introduced him and he started to speak. And what was interesting is it kind of set the tone for the whole night because the booing starts and then the moderator steps in and says, hey, paraphrasing here, of course, that's not how we do things here at Turning Points. And it was really fascinating to watch, to be honest with you, because then what played out after that was, well, this.
And you've said some things that there's been some inflammatory rhetoric on both sides, and that you've coined the "disagree better" slogan. Is that really a both sides issue, or what's your opinion?
No, so I want to add to what Andy said here because I think that's really important. One of the TPUSA staffers back there said this isn't just about left and right. It's about good and evil, right, up and down, and that piece really matters to me. And I think that's what we're talking about here. Look, there is a thread here. As Andy said, when you call people fascists and Nazis, well, we went and liberated Europe from fascists and Nazis. That is an evil. And when you try to convince people that people who aren't fascists and Nazis are
normal people, regular people participating in civic process.
That's exactly right. That we get accused of that. Here's two of the most dangerous trends that we've seen over the past few years. This idea that speech is violence is so wrong, and even worse than that,
it's illogical.
It's illogical, but it goes a step worse than that because then they think, well, then violence is speech. And when you see everything through a lens of oppressor and oppressed, which again is so dangerous because it allows you to justify things that you would never otherwise do. And you think that then because someone said something that you don't like, that's violence towards me, which then justifies me being violent towards this person for speaking. And that's exactly what happened in this case. And that is a destructive mind virus in our society today.
So do you think... I'll let Jason hop in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you believe it is a both sides issue?
Look. Okay.
No, the answer to that is no.
The answer, that mindset that I just told you is only coming from one side. That mindset is only coming from one side. That idea that speech is violence and violence is speech, that is not coming from the right. It is not coming from the right at all.
I've only seen it come from the left, I think, predominantly. That's what Andy said.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was trying to say, is this is not a both sidesism. I think there's a deeper problem here, and it's and I had to learn this myself, unfortunately, the hard way recently, and it's nihilism. I didn't even know what nihilism was. Right. Nihilism is this idea and this belief that you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in God. You don't believe in any sort of roots. You don't believe that there are morals. You don't believe that there is a good and bad. It's good and evil. You don't believe any of that. So if you look at it and kind of study it, and then you start to understand that for hundreds of years, this has been an issue. There are people that may have grown up in a conservative, idyllic household or neighborhood. Think of southern Utah. Think of Washington County. Is there a more, I mean, it's as beautiful as anything.
Think of Gilbert, Arizona.
Gilbert, Arizona.
There you go. That's it.
All right?
Yeah.
But it's...
You love Arizona.
But this nihilism takes root. And suddenly people don't believe that in anything. They don't have any roots in anything. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in these things.
And we've seen it here.
Again, that kind of gets into what the governor had said previously on social media, saying it was building up these walls of division that was kind of encouraging, especially young people, to kind of separate themselves from reality to some extent. Now, the governor did get some pushback on some of his comments there online that he's responded to today when he said, this is not coming from the right. People were quick to pile on and say, well, there's a tweet out there with J.D. Vance calling Donald Trump as a candidate a fascist. There are tweets out there of members of Congress acting in a way that the governor said the right doesn't act. And the governor explained that, we've got the audio of that. It was a fascinating conversation where you can't walk away from this. If you went into it with little, you can't walk away from this conversation that took place last night without a higher level of respect, whether you agree with him or not, a higher level of respect for Governor Cox and what it is he's trying to say here. If imperfectly and sometimes, stumbling over his own words, the message he's trying to convey, what he's taking away from this political assassination that happened here in Utah, is a message people need to hear. Maybe he's not the right messenger. I'll give you that. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's too soon. Maybe it's too late. I don't know. But what he's saying is important. And that was a big part of the final few minutes of the Turning Point event last night, with everyone kind of conceding that to Governor Cox. We've got that audio for you after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. As we've been talking about this afternoon, thousands of supporters gathered at Utah State University's D. Glenn Smith Spectrum for a Turning Point USA event that paid tribute to slain founder Charlie Kirk, and it also urged attendees to continue his mission. Now, organizers estimated that more than 6,000 people attended last night's rally, which featured a panel including Utah Governor Spencer Cox, Arizona Representative Andy Biggs, and former Utah Representative Jason Chaffetz. Now, Tyler Bauer with Turning Point USA acknowledged Kirk's absence, telling the crowd that I see an empty chair and it just does something to me. Now, the crowd erupted with chants of Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. Now, the event, hosted by Alex Clark, focused primarily on passing the torch to young conservatives. Governor Cox, meanwhile, faced a wave of boos when discussing how Kirk's September 10th assassination had changed him politically. Now, overall, the rally concluded without incident, with many attendees praising the heightened security. In other news, a Preston High School graduate and his son were among the more than 8 people injured in last Sunday's deadly attack on a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints meeting house in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. Benjamin Phelps, a 2005 graduate, and his son were both hurt when former Marine Thomas Jacob Sanford crashed a truck into the chapel, opened fire, and then set the building ablaze, killing 4 people. Now, Phelps' friend, Sarah Kunzler, organized an online fundraiser, noting that the son has already returned home, but Benjamin is still facing a long and difficult recovery. Now, the fundraiser initially sought to raise $15,000, but quickly surpassed over $45,000, demonstrating what Kunzler said was an overwhelming outpouring of support. And finally, the man who authorities say killed 4 people and wounded at least 8 others at that church in Michigan has ties to Utah. Police have identified that Thomas Jacob Sanford of Burton, Michigan, was arrested in Summit County back in 2010 for driving under the influence. Now, the charge was later reduced to impaired driving, to which he pled guilty. Now, Sanford was ordered to serve 12 months in court probation in the case, which occurred despite him listing a Michigan address at the time. Now, the former Marine crashed his truck into that church meeting house on Sunday morning, just before 10:30 in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. He then opened fire, set the building ablaze before being fatally shot by police after running away. The FBI say they are continuing to investigate it as a targeted act of violence. Well, it's been a gorgeous afternoon as we've enjoyed sunny skies, temperatures in the low 70s, and tomorrow, well, pretty much a carbon copy of today, as we'll see clear skies overnight, temperatures dropping into the mid-40s. Tomorrow we'll be back into the mid-70s with mostly sunny skies. It isn't until Friday afternoon that we'll start to see clouds coming in. That's going to bring a chance of some showers and thunderstorms beginning Friday afternoon and continuing into the weekend, where we'll see some cooler temperatures Saturday and Sunday. And don't forget, it's that time of year as we head into the fall months that pesky weeds are starting to pop up all over your lawn. That's why you need to call Logan Extermination to help get your lawn ready for winter. 752-8450. It's Logan Extermination. And I'm Will Theorite with your KVNU News headlines.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Day 1 of the government shutdown, the Senate voting on the same 2 bills they couldn't pass yesterday. The result was the same. Another vote won't come until Friday at the soonest. The stalemate leaving federal workers potentially without a paycheck, even when they're required to show up to work, like air traffic controllers and TSA agents. This controller at John Glenn International Airport in Columbus, Ohio.
You can only ask people to do so much, genuinely. Even if a service is very important, people are only going to do things out of the goodness of their heart for so long.
Lisa Cook keeps her job for now. The Supreme Court today declining to act on the Trump administration's effort to immediately remove her from her job as a Federal Reserve governor. The High Court will hear the case in January. Protests in multiple Mediterranean countries after activists on board a flotilla of vessels sailing toward Gaza today said that the Israeli Navy had intercepted 3 of its boats as they approached the besieged Palestinian territory. This is ABC News.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello?
Pam, I understand you've been a nurse for quite some time.
I do pediatrics, but med-surg, we're all combined units.
Oh, okay. Well, someone reached out to us saying that you not only have a master's degree in nursing, but a master's degree in love and compassion. And so we've got a $40 gift card we'd like to give you to Firehouse Subs for being such a huge impact on people in our community.
Oh, that's nice.
The Above and Beyond Salute on News Talk KVNU.
Hey there, quick question. Wouldn't it be nice if your home stayed cool in the summer and warm in the winter without your HVAC working overtime? With Cardinal Spray Foam Insulation, it can. They use an insulation that seals the gaps you didn't know you had, keeping air in, comfort up, and energy bills down. I guarantee you'll feel the difference. Plus, you could qualify for a $1,200 tax credit. Call 755-5012 or look them up online. Cardall's Insulation, 755-5012.
News Talk KVNU will bring you the complete coverage of General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The conference sessions will air Saturday from 10 till 12, 2 till 4, and 6 till 8. Also Sunday from 10 till 12 and 2 till 4. Listen live at 102 FM, 610 AM, and online at kvnutalk.com. Also, on the KVNU mobile app, General Conference is provided as a public service of News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt Pure Love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I lost my healthy 27-year-old son to influenza. Jacob wasn't someone you'd expect to die from the flu. After 5 weeks of fighting, Jacob died.
I'm Dr. Bill Schaffner of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases. Each year, influenza claims the lives of Americans of all ages, including healthy young adults like Jacob. Visit adultvaccination.org.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. On the phone during the break there with a USU student, actually, named Parker, who was at the event last night, who didn't come away with as much of a positive take on what the governor said as I did. I thought, and we'll get back to some of the governor's remarks last night. I'm saying the governor's message last night, considering why they were all there, the whole picture, from political assassination of Charlie Kirk to the relaunch of the tour to this being kind of about saying, that some person trying to silence someone by killing them isn't going to win here. We're going to be better than that. That's kind of the message, and why the governor said why he said yes when invited to being a part of this event. Because again, just a quick reminder, the governor has not always been on good terms with the Turning Point crowd. I wouldn't say Turning Point represents a furthest right of the Republican Party, but they're definitely further right than Governor Cox has been in the past. And Charlie Kirk himself once even called Governor Cox a national embarrassment after he vetoed a bill related to transgender rights that the governor felt was cruel, he called it, when the legislature passed it. And so Charlie Kirk and Governor Cox haven't always agreed. Now, apparently they made nice before Kirk's assassination. But that's neither here nor there at this point. And the governor spoke last night, I think, very responsibly. But, again, Parker on the line couldn't stay with us because I have to tell this story because it makes me laugh. Parker was actually working at his job at Utah State University, but in the research lab across the hall, they had For the People on. Someone over there, a fan, and he said he was hearing my remarks, and he said he decided to call in. He couldn't stay with us, though, because he was afraid his boss was going to be back, and he didn't want to get caught listening to the radio instead of doing his work. But hats off to you, Parker. We support that here. Just don't get caught. But what Parker had to say, he said, I'm a lifelong Republican. To be fair, Parker also admitted he's only been voting for 6 years, so to give you an idea of his age. But he said, I'm a lifelong Republican, and I thought what Governor Cox last night said was, I disagree with you, Jason. I didn't think it was responsible. Parker's issue is the governor said that it's wrong to go about calling people fascists or Nazis. Parker said, just playing devil's advocate to that, what if the person is a fascist or Nazi? What if the United States had refused to call fascists and Nazis during the lead up to World War II? We would have never gotten involved in the war. I think it's dangerous to say we should never use these words, because if someone is, we should call them that. Parker, I couldn't agree more. I think that's again where I say sometimes the governor just speaks indelicately. I think what the governor was trying to say is that oftentimes people are calling others fascist and Nazis just for disagreeing with them. Not because they actually are. I'm with you, Parker. If someone is a fascist, call them that, because it's dangerous and we should never go there as a country. But I think what the governor was trying to say is people are throwing around names like fascist and Nazi just because someone disagrees with them. Again, expressed indelicately last night, but I felt like that was what the governor was trying to say, based mainly on the fact that he said that kind of thing before. So now this is a perfect segue, though, into the second bit of audio we have. If you want to watch this whole thing, I've linked to it via the Turning Point's website on our Facebook page. It was nearly an hour and a half long event between Jason Chaffetz and Andy Biggs' remarks and some questions from the audience and more. But here's the second part of what I thought were the two highlights of Utah Governor Spencer Cox's time on the Turning Point's panel at USU last night. And here is how the governor kind of wrapped all of this up.
Look, I want to. This is maybe the most important question that you've asked. Look, to the last question you asked, and I want to make sure I answer it correctly. There are violent people on the far right. It happens, and to say that that's not true would be a lie, because it has happened. Okay. Now, listen. But this piece really matters. The prophet I believe in, that just passed away, for the past couple years, has been talking about peacemaking and bridge building. And he very passionately believed that anger never persuades, and that hostility never convinces anyone. But here's the connection I want to make. That is not soft. Peacemaking is not soft. It's the hardest thing you can do. And that's what Charlie understood. And this matters because there is a rift in our party. Charlie wanted to go in and he wanted to engage. And people that he talked to, people who were very different than him, people that disagreed with him, you saw those videos just now. He treated them with respect, he treated them with love, and he treated them with dignity.
That's right.
And that is not soft. But there are people in our party who don't want us to do what Charlie did. Right. They just wanted to call each other names or not engage at all. And we can't fall prey to that.
So,
that can't be us.
As a follow-up, that opens up a really interesting question for me. And this is a little bit of a tricky question, so I don't want to put anyone on the spot if you don't feel comfortable with this.
We're going to let Andy answer it.
Oh yeah, Andy can answer.
The Arizona.
You brought up the church. Is it time for the church to take mental illness a little bit more seriously instead of identifying with inclusion politics? Is that, and the community as a whole, when I say church, I mean the community as a whole, particularly in Utah. But what is the response on that? So, we talk about, we've got to be kind to people, but we also have to take some things very seriously and be tough.
Absolutely.
So how do you go about that? And just quick fire, what are some of the thoughts that you have that kind of go down the line with that?
Yeah, look, one of the things I want to be careful to do, the other thing my church teaches is that we all have agency and everybody is responsible for their own decisions. And look, the person who committed this horrific crime, that person is responsible for their decision. Not the church, not Utah, not someone else. That person is responsible. And we absolutely have to take mental illness more seriously in this country. And we have to get people help for what they're dealing with. And you know how you do that, though? Charlie had the answer to that as well. It's like, get off your couch, get off social media, get married, have kids, do something with your life. We have to have more grit and responsibility. So much of the mental illness we're seeing is caused by that.
That was, again, passionate remarks by Governor Cox last night at the Turning Point event. It was really fascinating to watch this play out because, again, Governor Cox's remarks started out with some pretty loud booing. It wasn't a lot of people. I said 10. I was just being funny. It was probably 50. I don't know. I saw the chatter online yesterday. The Phil Lyman crowd, they there's a group of people who were very involved with the Phil Lyman for Governor campaign last year who have gone the Mike Lindell, My Pillow guy route, and they're convinced Governor Cox stole this election from Phil Lyman. Well, we all saw the primary results, and then we saw the general election result. Phil Lyman ended up with 13% of the write-in vote, which is pretty big, actually, for a write-in candidate, but it is nowhere close to winning. And he has no evidence for saying that Cox stole the primary or... Yeah, so it's just an attempt by a former state lawmaker to turn himself into the next social media influencer. And it's embarrassing. But they organized to show up and kind of be disruptive last night. And they were I saw chatter on Twitter. The Deseret News even kind of reported on the plan. And they did. When Governor Cox was introduced and started to speak, they started booing. And the Alex Clark, the Turning Point representative, kind of moderating, for lack of a better word, this panel discussion, shut it down and said basically, hey, that's the opposite of why we're here. That's not what Turning Point is all about. It was beautiful. For a group that leans further right than I would guess maybe most Republicans in Utah even do, to shut that down right out of the gate and say, that's not why we're here. That's not how we're going to go about it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Whether you agree with Spencer Cox or not, whether you like him or not, it was a beautiful moment. And then to have it wrap up 45 minutes later with Governor Cox getting, like the kinds of cheering crowd responses that the Aggies get when they're playing in the Spectrum, it was a really cool thing to see. And the governor he stumbled a few times, and he had to go back and kind of, what I meant to say was this, what I meant to say with that. As we heard from a caller during the news break, Parker, he didn't care for the governor saying, that you should never call someone a fascist, because what if they are a fascist? You should absolutely call them that. And I agree, Parker. But I think what the governor meant last night, again, was people are calling each other fascists just because they disagree with each other, and that's not healthy. And it's dehumanizing. The governor talked a lot about this, but to have him wrap up again by saying, get off social media, go do something with your life. That's how we repair a lot of this. It was just really cool to hear, I think. So we'll see where this goes. The event was it was pretty crowded at the Spectrum last night. Not like the Aggies can pack it, but that's Aggie basketball, right? But there were a lot of folks there. And what was interesting to me is that a lot of the general public that did get in after the students were given priority seating, I would say there were more general public than students there last night, and they were from all over the state. So it was an interesting thing. And also I talked to a large number of people who were not even fans of Charlie Kirk, who just kind of came to see what was said. And because this heinous act, this political assassination happened here in Utah, one woman actually said, I'm not even political. It was a political assassination of someone, and you should always show up against that type of thing. And I said, well said. So it was a really cool event to see. If you want to see the governor's full remarks, I've played the majority of them here with these two highlight clips, but there were more. Former Congressman Jason Chaffetz and Congressman from Arizona Andy Biggs also spoke on various different topics and policy and things like that. And you can find the full thing via the link I've posted on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Hi, it's Congressman Blake Moore. Have you heard the news? My office recently won an award for our Outstanding Constituent Service Program. That's right. The Congressional Management Foundation named Team Moore winners of their Best of Constituent Service Award, meaning Utahns in the 1st District are receiving some of the best help Congress has to offer. Representing Utah priorities in Congress and providing top-notch constituent service is at the heart of everything Team Moore does. We've had great success helping Utahns with expedited passports, visa processing, veterans benefits, immigration petitions, retirement issues, tax returns, and much, much more. We'd love for you to experience our award-winning service yourself. If you need help navigating a federal agency, including the IRS, Social Security, the VA, Immigration Services, or Medicare, please give my office a call at 801-625-0107. That's 801-625-0107. We're also happy to help coordinate U.S. Capitol tours, take your comments, and provide legislative updates anytime. It's our honor to serve you and your family. Thank you. paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. If you own firearms, it's your responsibility to make sure they're always stored safely. Hiding them in a closet or drawer is not enough. Kids know where they are. Research shows the risk of injury and death is lower if guns are stored unloaded and locked up, with the ammunition locked in a separate place. This is important when children are young, as well as when they grow into teenagers. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
Their age?
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVA News for the People. Probably should have started the show this way, but happy government shutdown again. It's actually been a while. We haven't had a full-on shutdown since 2019. The first I remember in my lifetime was when Senator Mike Lee and Ted Cruz shut the government down in 2013. That didn't go well for Senator Lee. It cost Utah a lot of money. But because this is kind of a regular thing now, sadly, states are prepared, and so it's less expensive for states to kind of pick up the gap. And with that in mind, I know a lot of people have been wondering, but the national parks in Utah will remain open. But this does mean the state takes over the staffing and funding. So the staff will be limited. You might see poorer service with cleaning out restrooms and dumping those porta potties in trailhead areas and stuff like that. But they will be open and running. So recreation advocates are, of course, urging Congress to get their act together and end the shutdown that started at midnight last night. But for the time being, if you have travel plans, late summer travel plans, some sort of outdoor rec plan involving national parks and, of course, state parks as well, they will be open, though service might be a little limited. Again, that's the latest from the state of Utah. Outdoor recreation, I forget what we call them, committee? I don't remember. Anyway, it is, this is a story that I didn't think was true, but a listener challenged me on this. We were talking about candy yesterday on the show, and I said, no, candy is bad for you unless you eat too much of it. And a listener said, oh, no, that's not true. Some people died once because of peppermint candies. And I thought, no, it's true. Florence sent me these emails last night after I made these comments on the show that candy was only bad if you eat too much of it, headed into Halloween. And I stand corrected, but this is a story out of Britain. I'd never heard this before, but it is one of Britain's deadliest mass poisoning events. And it was, at the center of it, of course, was peppermint candy. And this was, now this was a long time ago. It was 1858. And it started with an ill 5-year-old. The 5-year-old ended up living. In fact, it was only older adults that were most affected by this. But what they found was that there were these candies, very popular at the time, called peppermint humbugs. And they'd bought them the previous day at a local market. And the doctor quickly determined that, many of these adults who were falling much more ill and even dying, whereas children were not, that it was a kind of poisoning. And it had to do with an adult's liver being less elastic and capable of filtering than a 5-year-old. So the 5-year-old that was originally the first patient ended up being okay. Some of the adults were not. And what they found is that the dark coating on these candies, they found a very large quantity of arsenic in it. And so they paid a visit to the owner of the market where they were sold. And the owner himself was near death, which, of course, ruled him out as a suspect. They'd assume so. And it turns out what this was all about, it was the owner's fault, but in making these candies, these peppermint humbugs, his nickname was Humbug Billy, William Hardacre. And he had bought this cheap sugar to save costs. And so he'd, instead of buying expensive sugar, he'd bought Daft, which is also known as plaster of Paris. And he'd use that to make the outer coating on these candies. And it has arsenic in it. And so it was unintentional, but it did kill a handful of people and make many people sick. And ended up being a international news story in 1858. So I stand corrected. I said yesterday on the show that there have been no incidents of someone being poisoned by Halloween candy in my life. And now this is, of course, before my time, 1858, but I said this didn't happen. It was an urban legend, and you only get sick if you eat too much Halloween candy. And, well, Florence, thank you. I stand corrected. Back in 1858, Britain's largest and deadliest mass poisoning occurred when a candy maker at his local shop decided to save a buck, and they used plaster of Paris to make the dark coating of the peppermint candies instead of regular sugar. So I guess the lesson there would be, don't do that if you're a candy maker. Avoid arsenic-based construction materials. All right. That is our time for today. I hope everyone is enjoying this nice afternoon. It's still 72 degrees as we wrap up the show today. I love fall temperatures like this. It's warm enough, but not too warm. And it's cool enough, but not too cool. And enjoy it out there. And please be with us tomorrow as well. Coming up next week, Monday through Friday, is one of the coolest events that takes place in northern Utah each year. And it is known as 4-H Week. This is being celebrated at USU and various places throughout the valley. And our good friend Caitlin of the Utah 4-H group here in northern Utah will be with us tomorrow to talk about what you can expect and how you can get involved, whether you've got young kids or not, in 4-H Week being celebrated throughout Utah, but starting here in northern Utah at Utah State University on Monday. Caitlin will be with us tomorrow to talk about that, preceded by the For the People Theater Hour with Charlie Schill, and I hope you stick around. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.